So, let's talk about the mindset that keeps people stuck financially. This isn't about some get-rich-quick scheme. No, this is about rewiring the beliefs deep down that are holding you back. And our guide for this? It's someone who went from a super frugal childhood to making over $1 million a month, all because he figured out how to tackle what he calls the broke mindset.
And this, right here, is the absolute core of it all. The biggest skill isn't how smart you are or how lucky you get. The real difference maker is mastering the psychology of money, really getting a handle on your own mental programming and seeing how it shapes every single financial move you make.
And this isn't just some nice theory. After rewiring his own brain, the entrepreneur we're learning from pulled in over $50 million in online revenue. That's just powerful proof of how much our internal world can really shape our external results.
Okay, so that brings us to the big question, right? How do you actually do it? How do you break free from these patterns that have been baked into you, maybe since you were a kid? Well, that's exactly what we're about to unpack.
We're going to walk through 5 huge mindset shifts, going from scarcity to seeing the upside, learning how to spend to grow, why you need to forge your own path, understanding that time is the real currency, and finally, how emotional control is really a financial skill.
All right, first up, and this one can honestly change everything. It's moving from a mindset of scarcity to one that sees potential and upside. This is all about totally reframing how you think about risk. This scarcity thinking often comes from some pretty deep places. The guy we're learning from, he grew up with immigrant parents who had literally fled a war. For them, it was all about survival. Leaving a single grain of rice on your plate, that was a serious waste. His dad wore the same clothes for over a decade. That mentality was absolutely crucial for them to survive back then, but it became heavy baggage for building a future.
And here is the fundamental difference. The broke mindset is just ruled by a fear of losing money. Every single decision gets filtered through, how do I not lose here? But the wealthy mindset? It's driven by a fear of losing upside, of missing out on a huge potential gain. They're always asking, what's the potential reward here?
And here's a perfect story of how costly that fear can be. When he was starting his first business, his only focus was, don't lose money. So what did he do? He hired the absolute cheapest web developer he could find. And the result? Months of his time completely wasted. A website that was totally useless. So the money was gone anyway, but more importantly, so was the time.
This all leads to a really important concept, asymmetric payoffs. This is what the wealthy mindset is constantly looking for. It's all about taking smart, calculated risks where the potential win is just massively, exponentially bigger than the potential loss. This isn't about being reckless. It's about being strategic.
Now for our second point, which really builds right on top of the first one. This shift is about learning to spend money to make money. To stop seeing capital as something you just hoard and start seeing it as a tool to build momentum.
Look at Elon Musk. It's an extreme example, but the principle is crystal clear. After he sold his first company, Zip2, for around $20 million, he rolled every penny of it into PayPal. Then, after selling PayPal for $180 million, he did the exact same thing again, betting it all on SpaceX and Tesla. He used every single win to fuel the next, even bigger, bet.
But of course, most of us are not Elon Musk, and failure is definitely part of the deal. Our source's first 3 businesses, they all failed. But those expensive mistakes, they weren't just losses, they were lessons. It was like paying tuition for the knowledge he needed to make that 4th business a huge success.
So here's the key thing to remember. A win is not the finish line. It's fuel. It's the momentum you have to reinvest to accelerate toward your next, bigger goal. Building wealth is just a continuous game of leveling up. Okay, mindset shift number 3. This one's all about questioning the conventional path. It's about recognizing that real wealth is usually built not by climbing someone else's ladder, but by building your own.
This slide just lays out the choice so clearly. On one side, the safe path, a guaranteed 6-figure job in investment banking. On the other, the riskier path, turning that job down to learn how to day trade, a skill that could fund a business he actually owned. One path meant working for someone else, with a ceiling on how much he could make. The other was all about building something for himself.
And the results of taking that unconventional path went way beyond just money. It completely conditioned him to always optimize for ownership and upside. He learned how to think for himself, he mastered risk, and it funded his future companies. It was a kind of education that a traditional job could never, ever provide. This 4th mindset shift is so important. It's when you finally realize that the ultimate measure of wealth isn't the number of dollars in your bank account, it's the freedom of your time. This table breaks it down so well. We're all taught to measure success by total income, right? The hard work metric. But that's flawed, because you could just be working twice as many hours. The real metric of wealth is leverage, your income divided by the hours you work. The whole point is to always increase that number, to literally buy back your time.
And here is a super powerful gut check for you. If your success needs you to be there all the time, that's not real wealth. That's just a high-paying job. True success is all about building systems that work for you.
And finally, the fifth and maybe the most underrated shift of them all, understanding that your emotional maturity is a core financial skill. Your internal state has a direct impact on your financial bottom line.
Here's a painful but really powerful example. Early on in his business, a lack of emotional control, bad communication, flashes of anger, it caused the key person on his team to quit, and the business nearly died overnight. It took a lot of humility, a sincere apology, and a real commitment to learning emotional regulation to save that company.
And the exact same lesson applied to his trading. After a massive winning streak, he got cocky. He felt invincible, started thinking he was above his own rules for managing risk. And one bad trade, completely driven by ego, wiped out his entire account. What a brutal lesson that you are never, ever above your process.
So the crucial point is this. We tend to dismiss things like communication and emotional control as soft skills, but in high-stakes games, like running a business or managing investments, they become hard, critical financial skills. The higher the stakes get, the more expensive your ego becomes.
And that's what we want to leave you with. As the stakes in your own life get higher, just take a second and think about it. Which one of these 5 mindsets, the fear of loss, not reinvesting your wins, sticking to the safe path, trading your time for money, or a lack of emotional control, which one is really holding you back?